for State Independent Charge for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Prakash Javadekar, and may I please request him to kindly address us.
Rajnath ji, Justice Keher, Piyush Goyal, Swatantra Kumar, ladies and gentlemen. So this is my second presentation in the very important deliberations. As Swatantra Kumar ji was narrating the outcome of this seminar, I'll get full details of various suggestions and gist of the seminar, and we'll study it because we believe in dialogue, we believe in different opinions, because we believe in vade vade jayate tattva bodha. The country benefits from various discussions of such kind, which takes us to a new height. After all, our main impediment, as Prime Minister also mentioned in the inauguration session, that poverty is the real challenge for environment. And therefore, poverty eradication is our goal, both judiciary and executive. And therefore, we need both environmental protection as well as growth, and that is what he was mentioning. That the message of this conference is that we must achieve both, we can achieve both, and that is what is called sustainable development. So we'll ensure growth and we will also ensure environment protection effectively, and that is the sustainable goal for which Modi government is committed. Because international community here, let me put some things in perspective. There is debate in international community over various issues. Just for example, coal. People present it as if coal consumption, yes, definitely it's a hazard, and coal consumption is an environmental degradation, and coal consumption is a threat, but still coal is a mainstay. When we were in Paris, some people were presenting as if India and some countries which are coal-based power projects essentially are a piece of villain, but it is not. Even today, India's coal consumption in absolute terms, not on per capita basis, in absolute terms, it is nearly 50% of that of what US consumes, despite having tremendous shale gas. Historically, today what we are experiencing 1 degree temperature rise, what it has caused? It is caused by 150 years of carbon emissions. This has caused us a temperature rise today. And who has done this? US is 30%, Canada, Europe and other developed countries 50%, 10% in China, and India is only 3% of the historical responsibility. Still, our Prime Minister Modi is so passionate on this issue. He says that though we are not part of the problem, India will be a responsible country to walk a sustainable development path, because though we are not part of problem, we want to be part of solution. That is the approach India has. Let me turn to one important point at this end of seminar, is relationship between judiciary and executive. I think Constitution has made it very clear, judiciary, legislature and executive, three pillars of democracy, have three different functions, independent of each other, but there are checks and balances, and that is the beauty of democracy. So what is expected of governance? We must provide environmental governance. And what is that environmental governance? When I assumed charge, on the very first day I told our officers that we will do not file by file decisions. We will take policy decision. We will not indulge into discrimination. We will take policy decision. That is the basis of environmental governance. Second is, we will our processes will be transparent. That is the second important feature of environmental governance. And we will also ensure that compliance happens, because that is also a duty of executive. But here is judiciary also has to play a role. And I am very sure that if we follow as executive policy-based decision regime, transparent processes, and decisions without discretion, then on compliance, judiciary can also be our real guiding force, because they can implement wherever there is no compliance happening, whether it's a state government or local bodies or some particular parties. They have to come into picture and give a judgment which will improve the compliance, because compliance is what is required in our India. We have so many laws, we have so many rules, but compliance is where we lack. मैं हमेशा कहता हूं कि अमेरिका में रात को 3 बजे सिग्नल पे गाड़ी खड़ी होती है, ट्रैफिक न होते हुए भी, इसलिए नहीं कि वहां सारे संत पैदा होते हैं, लेकिन उनको पता है कि वो अगर ब्रीच करेंगे तो गाड़ी घर पहुंचने के पहले उनके यहाँ ईमेल से $500 का जुर्माने का भी आएगा, ये दंड का भय है. और आई बिलीव दैट सोते में भी दंड जागना चाहिए. And that is how things should happen. But I have a suggestion for judiciary also. That when you find some policy or rules or legal inadequacy, give time to executive to improve upon. Because if you stay, the whole thing stops. The wheels of progress cannot be stopped, but we have to be accommodative to give enough time to execute. And I am happy that when NGT quashed some OMs, I first saw what time it was issued. It was issued 4 or 5 years back when I was not minister. But because I believed that OM quash, you cannot change notification by office order. And to that extent I agreed. I told my officers that we must change notification by notification. And therefore we must bring new notification. So such kind of dialogue and such kind of relationship of judiciary and executive is essential. I'll give 2-3 examples just. And I believe that if you function properly, judiciary also responds. There were 2 decisions. One taken 10 years ago, that the sawmill permission, which is just a junior executive function, was to be taken over by judiciary created centrally empowered committee. They used to allot who will run sawmills. That's an executive function. But now we have come with a good policy and rule regime that Supreme Court has said now this will rest with Ministry of Environment and Forest and they will do the executive job. And that's the correct position. That is how it should happen. In National Board of Wildlife, every decision we used to take in National Board of Wildlife was not final. People required to go to Supreme Court again to get revalidation of NBWL decision. But last 2 years we are functioning in such a way, in a transparent way, giving correct reasons why we are taking this decision and why we are deferring or why we are rejecting, why we are sanctioning. We are mentioning reasons for that, logic for that. I think that also impacts. So Supreme Court recently has allowed that now such all decisions taken by National Board of Wildlife will be final and no need to come to Supreme Court. I think that is the mutual trust which carries importance. There are still some issues to be resolved. I went to Andaman last month. Andaman is a 94% forest, 564 beautiful islands. I don't know, there was one committee which came in and which created all roadblocks. Now you can't do anything. Even the proper forest management is not possible. I'll go to Supreme Court. And I'm confident because today forest working plans of Andaman Islands are checked and sanctioned by centrally empowered committee, not by the ministry. That should not happen. I'll put case before Supreme Court and I'm very sure that we will get justice because what we are saying is we are presenting a policy-based decision, environmental governance promise. I'll not go at length. But in compensatory afforestation fund, when they were not utilized properly, Supreme Court intervened and that was right. That they said that all state governments must utilize the funds properly. But what happened, sometimes some things go wrong. That ultimately what happened, Supreme Court has to give it to the CEC and for the last 10 years, the funds meant for afforestation are lying in banks and now the banks, total amount in banks deposit is 40,000 crores. We are now bringing a new bill because we want to be transparent. We are bringing new bill which has been now scrutinized by standing committee. It will come before this parliament session and I am very sure that it will get passed. And I am very sure that Supreme Court will also accept that if you have a law and rule based regime, if you are guaranteeing environmental governance, they will not like to intervene. And that's how things should. And therefore my last point is that what PM said, every country is a different country. Every country's economic, social, political system is different. And therefore we must understand each other. That as I said that we have constraint of more population, less land and less water resources. We are a poor and developing country. People, 1.25 billion people have aspiration for growth. We have to ensure sustainable growth. And in that work, we, both executive and judiciary, we must work together to achieve that sustainable goal. And that is what is all about this seminar. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your extremely noteworthy address.